And I hope that you find tonight really, really helpful. It's been fun putting it together. I've really enjoyed it. So let me share my slides and we will get going. Okay, and as many of you know, I ran a series of free webinars for COVID-19 last year in 2020. I think there were 25 in total. I did do one on mindfulness, but this one's completely different. That's not to say that what I did in 2020 is not valid, but you know, a year on, we're really learning that a mindful way of being is just so incredibly important because of all we are dealing with at the moment. So let's launch in. I've called this the how and why of mindfulness, why a mindful way of being matters so much. And really we'll be starting with the why, but then giving you a lot of help around the how, so that you may already be currently using mindfulness as part of your wellbeing strategy. And this will just add to that and probably confirm for you that you're doing a lot of great things. For those who perhaps have not really fully engaged in mindfulness as yet, this is your opportunity tonight to kickstart something. So I'm on Wadawurrung country. I'd like to acknowledge Wadawurrung country. This is just a beautiful place that is here. And it's by Lake Victoria. We can be absolutely certain that traditional custodians, the Wadawurrung people, would have used this path. It's near the water, and I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of this country that I love so much. I'm grateful. I'm incredibly grateful for the way in which Wadawurrung people have cared for the land. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that the way colonisation has marginalised the Wadawurrung so greatly. But I've got great hope and determination for a shared future and for a time and a place where justice will be done. And I'll just give you a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that you are on and that you love. So, you've seen this slide before. My name is Lisa Barker, and I am the founder and facilitator of Heliotropia Wellbeing. Heliotropia means turn towards the sun, and in nature and in psychology, the heliotropic effect is the tendency for all living systems, including us, to turn towards what enables our life and what lifts us up, and to turn away from what depletes and detracts from life. And this is a survival technique, but if we do it enough, we truly thrive. This photograph is me on Garrawerd country, which is the Grampians, after a massive hike, massive hike, and I'm boiling hot, but pretty happy with myself. My qualifications there, I have a long career in education and then moved into the science of wellbeing a few years ago, and still studying actually, now doing a coaching graduate certificate at Swinburne. So I put that there just to say everything I share with you tonight is evidence-based, it's research-based. I won't be showing you all the research papers, but I do have them all. So if there's anything in particular that you would love to read more about, I can send that through to you. I'll be sending resources tomorrow anyway, but if you want extra resources, you only have to ask. So there's a lot of nature in my work. You will know that if you've been to a few webinars. We are nature. Spending time in nature reacquaints us with our true selves. We start from a seed as well, and we grow and we thrive and we flourish in the right conditions. And we languish when the conditions are not suitable for our growth and development. But it's up to us. It's truly up to us to work on our own flourishing, and the science of wellbeing is one way to find different strategies and tools that can help. Now, why is nature so important? Because these are some of the things that happen to us when we immerse ourselves in nature. This is a tree not far from where I live, an incredible moona tree. Have a look down that list and just consider when you were last in nature. I hope it was today. I hope at some stage you got out. Did any of these things happen for you? So my point being that if this is not well-being, I'm not sure what is. Even that bottom one is very powerful, isn't it? If we spend time alone in nature, the research shows that we become more self-compassionate and kind. So where are we headed tonight? I know I have some local people in the room who live on Wadawurrung country, so you'll love some of these photos. That's our beautiful lighthouse at Point Lonsdale. We're going to look at what mindfulness is with a few quotes from the absolute leading researchers and practitioners. I'm going to talk about why we practice it, why it's important, and what happens if we don't. Then we're going to move into, I guess, zooming out a little bit and looking at mindfulness as a way of being. And then we'll talk about who can inspire us as mentors, how do we set up the conditions to make it happen, and then how to get into flow, which is the ultimate optimum engagement state for humans. And then we'll finish with the bigger picture, and then I'll encourage you to think about a small action, and then time for a few questions. Once upon a mindful time, we were all little once, and we were completely fascinated by the world. And we didn't worry about the past. The past was pretty short, admittedly, but we didn't worry about our long future ahead either. We had an endless curiosity because everything in the world was new and incredibly interesting to us. But over time, that whittled away. And so what I would suggest to you tonight is that the research shows very strongly that we can recultivate an open-minded and curious approach to ourselves and to the world. And this will make a huge difference for us. So here's some quotes for you from really leading practitioners and researchers, of which there are many. Jon Kabat-Zinn is probably one of the biggest. If you don't know these names, can I suggest you jot them down? I hope you've got a piece of paper or something in front of you. I love to encourage people in workshops that I run live in the room to always have a big piece of paper, because it's an opportunity to put your ideas down in a really creative way. And I'll just show you what I've got in front of me at the moment. I do something like this for every webinar, and it's called generative scribing. But if you haven't got a big piece of paper, a small one will do. But just start writing down some of these names if you don't know them, and then I'm going to suggest to you later what to do with these names. Paying attention without judgment to the present moment. Jack Kornfield, another big name. Becoming fully present to the unbearable beauty and the inevitable tragedy that compromise our human life. Wow, that one's really very powerful for me. Noticing that the mind wanders and then gently bringing it back without judgment. Craig Hassard, he is a Melbourne-based doctor and mindfulness teacher, and he is my mindfulness teacher. I did my first mindfulness training with him, an outstanding practitioner, an outstanding individual. Catherine Thompson says, mindfulness is a way of using all of our senses to connect to both our inner and outer world. Catherine Thompson has done a lot of writing in the Christian space of mindfulness, the Christ-centered mindfulness, which is very, very interesting work. And of course, mindfulness as a tradition dates back, tens of thousands of years, really, but documented from 5,000 years ago. Pema Chodron, another incredible woman. Mindfulness is accepting the questions. The wisdom of not knowing lies in the humility of accepting that we don't have all the answers. How hard is that to kind of get our head around these days, given that all the answers are on Google and the phone is literally an extension of our hand? But Pema says, actually, let's be humble and let's accept that we don't have all the answers. Another big name in the positive psychology, wellbeing science space, Ryan Nemick. And Ryan says, mindfulness is more than the mere absence of mindlessness. Rather, it is attending to our present moment, whether that be an emotion, a thought, a belief, an impulse, a sensation, or to something in our environment, and approaching it with an open and accepting attitude, also known as curiosity. And the final one there, and I could have had another 5 pages of these, the Dalai Lama, of course, a calm state of mind rooted in affection and compassion, sensitive and responsive to others. So, wow, why would we not be doing this every day with our whole hearts? That's just one page. As I say, there are many, many more researchers, practitioners out there. Why wouldn't we be doing it when this is how we live? Distraction has become the default state for humans. This photograph is perhaps your experience right now in lockdown, homeschooling, trying to do your work, trying to possibly run a class if you're a teacher, possibly juggling your own children's home learning. This is where we are at the moment. But we've been coming to this distracted state for quite a while, and technology has really made life much, much more complex. It's made life easier as well, but there's a complexity that has come with technology. And when we look at mindfulness as a tradition of at least 5,000 years, technology is really just about 20 or 30 years what we know today as technology. So it's important to look at some of the ways of being that we've had in the past that maybe are still relevant or maybe more relevant than ever. And of course, with the pandemic, we have fear, we have polarization, we have anger. We saw some really angry protests on the weekend. We've got massive uncertainty that people are struggling with, trying so hard to be okay with just not knowing, with being separated, with being isolated, or for some families with being all under one roof, driving each other a little bit crazy. If technology is an epidemic, we know now that the combination of technology and COVID-19 makes for a very difficult pandemic. So why does being mindful matter? This is a beautiful cloud I saw the other morning on an early walk, and it looked to me a little bit like a plane that might fly to the other side of the world, but of course that's not happening at the moment. But it was a beautiful, beautiful sight. Why does being mindful matter? Well, mindfulness has a huge, huge impact on our executive functioning, which is really, this is what executive functioning is. It's memory, it's cognition, it's being able to make a decision, it's being able to be organized, it's being able to strategize and plan. Sometimes you might, certainly for the teachers in the room, you'll know that sometimes we have students where their executive functioning is low, and it makes it very hard when our executive functioning is low to get anything done. Mindfulness has a big impact on executive functioning. Mindfulness teaches us emotional regulation and is the bedrock of emotional intelligence. If we actually want to have some understanding, awareness, understanding, and ability to manage our emotions, we need to be in the moment and experiencing them and understanding the impact of them. Mindfulness reduces our tendency to multitask, but actually multitasking is a complete misnomer. We don't multitask, we micro-switch between tasks. And so mindfulness really eliminates this behavior because it becomes so unsatisfying once we have done some mindfulness training. Mindfulness has a wonderful effect on our hormones. So cortisol and adrenaline are both hormones that are released through stress and anxiety and fear and anger. Mindfulness reduces the amount of cortisol and adrenaline that's being created in our body, in our gut actually, and being sent around our body. Mindfulness reduces pain, also our reactivity to pain. And one of the most famous research studies in the world of mindfulness is, of course, Jon Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress relief program that was done in the late 70s, but showed a marked effect on chronic pain. Mindfulness builds clarity, resilience, insight. We could all do with a little bit of that at the moment. Mindfulness aids genetic and cell repair. So if we zoom right in on our cells, mindfulness, a mindfulness practice has a very restorative effect on our genetic and cell repair. And it builds empathy and pro-social skills. Pro-social being kindness, generosity, collaboration, care, altruism, all of those beautiful skills that the world really needs. And so mindfulness actually leads to active engagement, which leads to this mind-body connection. And Leonardo knew this. 500 years ago, Leonardo knew this. That everything was interconnected, and that when we look after our mind, then our body will follow, and vice versa. When we look after our body, our mind will follow. And so mindfulness has been shown to improve functioning across every system in the body. Our physiological systems, our cognitive systems, our metabolic systems, and our emotional systems. Wow. So what if we don't bother? Or we've tried it and it hasn't really worked? Or we don't have time? That's something that you'll hear a lot. I don't have time. Well, these are some of the things that happen to us if we allow our bodies to stay in a long-term overactivation phase. We could go into great detail here, but I'm just going to I guess, summarize by saying that the body needs some stress, and short-term activation of stress, of our stress response, is actually really important, and it's helped us to stay alive, and it continues to help us to survive. But what's actually happening is we are having this, what is described as a habitual low gear of low-level stress all the time. So it's like we're always in this low gear of worry and rumination. And this is really, really dangerous. This is the aging process, because what it does is it increases our allostatic load on our body, which is on every single cell, and that is what aging is. So mindfulness really has the ability to slow down that wear and tear that happens to our body over time. It also, if we do not, if we stay in this long-term activation phase, we have higher blood pressure, we have higher metabolic pressure, so that's on every organ. We have reduced genetic function, our telomeres are shortened. They are the little caps on top of that seal our DNA in our chromosomes. Our amygdala grows, that is where our fears are generated. We lose brain cells. We have immune dysregulation that leads to inflammation, premature aging, disease activation. That's quite a list if we don't have time to cultivate a mindful way of being in our lives. Couldn't put a picture to that one. There's just nothing that I could put there that would be that would not trigger us to feel quite upset. So mindfulness is a mindset that makes space for whatever comes up and accepts the questions and is okay with not knowing all the answers. And we only have to look at some surfers out in the ocean to know that that's a mindful mindset right there, just waiting patiently, waiting for the right wave, and then enjoying that wave all the way in and being okay with waiting for the next one. And how do we get there? So we know that the negativity bias is a really big thing. It's part of our evolutionary makeup, and we know that we do way more mental work on the downside, on the negative side of life, and we're much more deeply affected by it. I think the cactus plant is a beautiful metaphor for this. We can tend to see a cactus and think, oh my God, I need to be careful. I need to be very aware that I could get hurt here. And yes, we can, but the flowers are absolutely exquisite, but we miss them. We miss the beautiful moments because we're so aware of the downside. And so this is where mindfulness can really, really help. This is just another little analogy to help convince you that mindfulness is actually quite incredible for breaking down our biases and our beliefs, the things, our assumptions about things. And this little story, if you don't know it, is a really interesting story about the monkey that puts his hand in the coconut. There's a peanut in the bottom. And so his hand can go in, but then once he grasps the peanut, his hand is like a fist and he can no longer get it out. And it's just a beautiful analogy for how tightly we can hold on to stuff that we really need to let go of, because it's just making us frustrated and biased and possibly perpetuating limiting beliefs in our lives. So the monkey and the peanut is a good analogy for us. And of course, modern society really does draw us away from who we really are. This life that we live now only represents 0.01% of the time humans have been on Earth. For the other 99.99% of the time, we've actually been outside, we've been engaging in nature, and we've been pretty busy. We've been mindfully engaging in, work outside. So, yeah, just something to really think about, that now more than ever, this is worth doing. So let's have some steps. Here's Ash Barty. I'm sure I'm not the only one in the room that absolutely celebrated just recently, a couple of weeks ago, with her wonderful success, and really felt for her yesterday with her shock defeat in the Olympics. But there can be no doubt that she's working on her mindful mindset as we speak. But here's some tips. Start small. Formal practice is absolutely essential. Choose an anchor, choose a mentor, think of combinations, and take tiny, deliberate steps. And I'm going to go through each of these with you now. So start small. The very first thing that we can do, and in fact, the advice around mindfulness is to start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes a day, that's all, but every day. The very first thing, though, of course, we can do is we can start to loosen our hold, if we think of the monkey and the peanut, on technology, on the need to be on screens. It's not our fault that we are so drawn to them, but that is certainly the very first step that I would recommend. And start to think about what is out there that actually takes us away from this epidemic that is technology. Turning off notifications is, I'm sure that most of you are already doing this, but that in itself is a mindful act that I can highly recommend. And then having time without screens, of course, is also a very highly mindful act. So why do we need to do this? Why do we need to turn screens off and have time without them? The reason is simply this, that wherever we place our attention and our time, that's where our energy will go. And our neural pathways, up here are the neuroplasticity of our brain. Our neural pathways are formed by where we place our attention, where our energy goes. So we're going to do a little bit of neural sculpting now with a short, formal mindfulness practice. So I invite you now to get comfortable. Turn off any mobile phones if you have them. I'll give you a minute to do that. And we're actually going to have a beautiful mindfulness practice together. This is one that is really a great beginning practice. And if you like this tonight and you feel it helps, I can record it for you and I can send it to you. Right, okay. So I hope you're comfortable now and sitting nice and comfortably with dignity, with your spine straight, your belly relaxed, and just allow your eyes to close. And I'm going to invite you to begin to notice the sensation of your body resting in the chair, or lying down if you are lying down. And so you've been sitting in the chair for a while now, but perhaps this is the first time today that you've begun to notice the sensation of this, of the legs and back making contact with the chair. And just think about that word contact. What is it really? Let's get curious about it. Is it a sensation of warmth or heaviness? Maybe a tingling sensation? Whatever it is, just noticing that sensation now. And in a moment, when you are ready, you can begin to pay attention to the sensation of your breath. Just noticing the sensation of the breath moving into the nostrils as you inhale. Just your natural breath. There's no need to change the way you're breathing. And then just observe the breath moving in and out of your body. Perhaps become aware of the sensations of the air at the tip of your nose as it enters, or your lips. And notice the place where the breath enters the body and any sensations there of warmth or coolness. And soon, if not already, you may begin to notice that your mind is wandering to thoughts, emotions, images, memories. And that's okay, because that is what the mind does. It wanders. Just notice where it has wandered off to. Accept and acknowledge that experience, and then letting it go. Gently but firmly bringing the attention back to the sensation of the breath moving in to the nostrils. The sensation of the breath moving into your lungs. Just noticing what it's like to do that. And with each passing breath, becoming more comfortably focused and aware. And whenever the mind wanders, and it will, just noticing that the mind has wandered and then gently returning attention to the breath. Again and again. And soon you may begin to notice that the thoughts and the feelings, the images, the memories pass like clouds, pass by in a clear blue sky. Just like clouds drifting, these thoughts come out of nowhere, change shape, and then fade into the distance. And there's no need for us to hold on to them. They just naturally fade all on their own. There's no need for us to push thoughts away. The mind doesn't have to do anything at all, but just watch those thoughts like clouds coming, drifting, changing, and then gently disappearing. And part of our mind that is like those thoughts passing like clouds. There's a part of our mind like that, but there's a deeper part like the space of the sky around the clouds, the space of observing awareness. And this deeper part of our mind is clear, open, and vast, like the sky. And it's just watching, observing peacefully. And so I'd invite you to focus your attention on this part of the mind. The vast, wide, clear, open part of the mind. And each time you return your attention back to the breath, you are learning to step back. To step back from your thoughts and feelings and emotions into the clear, open space of the mind. And each time you practice this, it will become easier and easier to go even more deeply. Now, just before we finish, I invite you to just let your mind wander. Go wherever you wish. Just let it go. And come back to the breath. And knowing that you can use whatever you've learned from just this last 10-minute practice, whatever you've learned, you can use in the future to help with any moments that you feel a little bit of mindfulness might help. You can return to this state of mindfulness whenever you need to, simply by bringing your attention back to the breath. So that was a really simple formal practice. That was 10 minutes. So twice as long as we might suggest for a first time. But what I would like to encourage you to consider is that when we practice formally like this, it gradually merges with the informal, with the everyday life, until the two are seamless. And with anything that we practice, the research shows that 21 days in a row is a good solid start to forming a good habit. So that little practice that we did today, if you would like a recording of that, you could actually do that for 21 days if you liked it and it worked for you. And you will be well on your way to merging the formal with other parts of your life. So anchors are really important as well. The anchor is what we bring our mind back to. We use the breath today, but it doesn't have to be the breath. And this is where mindfulness, it's really, really important to craft a mindful practice around what works for you. And so it might be that the breath is not particularly effective for you, but coming back to a word or a gesture or a touch, a metaphor, an image, even the face of a loved one can be an anchor tool for people when they are using mindfulness. A gesture might be something like touch, just holding your hands, putting one hand in the other. When you feel that you might need to find a mindful moment, just holding one hand in the other might be an effective anchor. A metaphor might be something like water. Water is a good metaphor that works for a lot of people because it's very flowing and adaptable and it's able to move around hard things. And so even just thinking of the metaphor of water can help. So an anchor is super important. The breath, of course, is, thousands of years old in mindfulness practice and meditation. And I personally find it very effective, but it doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So the other thing I'd like to share with you tonight is this idea of combining mindfulness with other things. So I like to call it mindfulness plus. And this is where we go from formal to informal, a mindful way of bringing a non-judgmental present moment attention to everything we do. So let's put up a few here. Mindfulness and movement go together beautifully. So do mindfulness and nature, of course. Mindfulness and water. Talked about water just before, but water is a hugely beneficial mindful tool because there's an incredible flow being in water. The buoyancy means we are hurled during the activity, and you cannot have any screens out there. So water is an incredibly good combination with mindfulness, and certainly that's one of my key mindfulness practices is being in water. Mindfulness and things like gardening, growing things, very, very powerful combination of cultivating food or growing plants and doing so mindfully. Mindfulness and food, of course, cooking, preparing food, eating food. You know, one of the worries about the way in which the gig economy is unfolding is that we are eating food that's being delivered to us. It's highly processed food. It's very fast to eat, and we're not eating mindfully. Preparing food, of course, is the most mindful way to approach nutrition in a mindful way. Mindfulness and craft and art are a beautiful combination. Again, if we think about how mindfulness gives us an opportunity to have a more innovative, spacious mindset, then of course that obviously leads to a more creative ability to consider really innovative ideas. Mindfulness in music, of course, is huge. And mindfulness and doing puzzles or games or anything like this, incredibly good way to consider a non-screen based way to really be in the moment. And of course, combining mindfulness with our relationships matters more than ever. And as in every Heliotropia webinar, when I use the word relationship, I talk about being in right relationship with self, with other, and with the planet. So a mentor is next. Choosing a mentor is important in a mindfulness journey. It may be one of those names that I mentioned to you earlier when I put up the quotes, people like Jon Kabat-Zinn, the Dalai Lama, Pema Chodron, Jack Kornfield. I can add more names to that list. Rick Hansen, another great name. Mathieu Ricard, Joan Halifax. I can add so many names. So choosing people who are very experienced at mindfulness as your mentors is a really important idea. Of course, Craig Hassett. And you can access them through Instagram and other social media. But it doesn't have to be a person. You might choose a place that helps you to be really mindful. I had someone in a workshop just this week who has a very busy household, young children, and this person goes out, she makes a cup of tea early, goes out and sits on a little step that is east facing, and she watches the sun come up. And she does it every day. And that is her mindful place. So it can be something like that. A mentor can be a thing, such as a bird. And bird watching is renowned for being an incredibly mindful activity, because if you're not mindful, you will miss this incredible and beautiful opportunity to see a bird. And so really a mentor is about thinking about, well, what can teach me and inspire me to be more fully present? That's as simple as that. So consider who your mentors might be. And they may be non-human, as I say. And mentors can be found everywhere. Once you start looking, you'll see them everywhere. And for me, again, it's the water. But I came to it, you know, in a mindless way, that I came to the water with a very severe injury and had to take up swimming. And it's just become the most extraordinary mindfulness practice for me. So when we're open to looking out for inspiration, you'll find it everywhere. So when and where we do mindfulness really matters. Routines are really, really important. They do help us to embed a good habit. I'd like to suggest to you, in starting your mindfulness practice, that you actually make a little schedule, and I will send you a template for this, where you're going to do it, what time you're going to do it, what you need there, how you're going to do it, what you're going to experiment with. So creating a space or a place that is set up and ready to go for you, such as the back step, the woman that I was talking about just before. It's part of her routine now. And so take a moment and think about, well, what would be the ideal setup for me to begin to form a really good mindfulness habit? And of course, flow. And I want to finish the webinar with just a few slides on flow, because flow is described as the most peak engagement. It is mindfulness in its most peak form. And making music is a renowned way of being in flow. Listening to music is less so, and I'll explain that in a moment. But unless you're listening very, very actively and you're actually picking up in the music different elements and listening for them. So the big research on flow is by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he is a very big name in the wellbeing science field. He is a co-founder of the field of positive psychology, along with Marty Seligman. And here's a quote from Mihai describing, he has spent his whole life researching peak engagement, optimal engagement, which is mindfulness at its very highest level. My mind isn't wandering. I'm not thinking of something else. I am totally involved in what I am doing. My body feels good. I don't seem to hear anything. The world seems to be cut off from me. I'm less aware of myself and my problems. So this is a quote from a musician, I believe, a classical musician, who described what it is to be in this mindful state. And this is Mihai's model, his flow model. And so I want to explain this to you just briefly, and we're still pretty good for time, I think. Yep. If we look down, if we look on the y-axis here, this is the challenge axis. And if we look on the x-axis down the bottom here, this is the skill axis. So when we have low challenge and low skill, we are in an apathy state. We think about we're not being challenged at all and we don't need any skills to do it. It can become an apathy state. If we move the challenge up a little bit, but our skill level does not change, we enter this worry state. If we move the challenge up again to high challenge, but our skill level is still very low, that's when we fall into this anxiety state. Let's go along the x-axis now. So apathy is first. If we have a low skill level and low challenge, but our skills start to improve, we can get into this boredom state. And if we have high skills but very low challenge, then we will find ourselves in a relaxation state. It's very easy. What we're doing is very, very easy for us, but it's not challenging us at all. And so then we have these two in-between states, which I will describe for you. This is when we have good skills, the challenge is getting high, and we're starting to really get interested in that, and we want to get better at it. And for this one, our skill level's really high, the challenge is on its way up, and we're in complete control of what we're doing. But then there's this optimal state here, and this is when the challenge and the skill are both high and they balance one another. And this is when flow happens. And when you go out and watch the Olympics after this, you'll see this. You can actually see this happening. High challenge, high skill. But flow takes some really essential elements. So there's that balance of challenge and skill. That's incredibly important. But there's a few other essential elements as well. And this is all of Csikszentmihalyi's research. The activity needs to be actively participated in. We need to be completely concentrating. So we can't be multitasking or multi-screening while we're doing this. Time is transformed. Time either speeds right up or it can go incredibly slow. For example, musicians report a speeding up of time when they're in this peak engagement space. Dancers tend to report a slowing down of time. So they do these incredible movements with their bodies, but it's as if it's in slow motion. So flow also needs to be an activity for its own sake, not for a reward. And flow is described as optimal human engagement, the most optimal mindfulness there is. And it's very, very, very good for our well-being. And so I'd love you to think about this after the webinar. Think of a time when you were last in a flow state. And I invite you to actually journal it. Sit down and write down what it was, what it felt like, what happened for you in that time. And then share that with someone, and hopefully they'll ask you some more questions. And then ask yourself this question: how can I make this happen more often in my life? And here's a hint: having really meaningful work and non-work and non-screen hobbies can help to get us into flow. These are my feet here. I am most in flow when I am hiking, really challenging hikes, but my skill is good. I've prepared for the hike and it's hard work, but I'm up for it. And that is when I find myself completely in flow. So we're going to finish off with the last couple of things now. Dadiri, of course, I've mentioned this before in some of my other webinars. Dadiri is the Australian Aboriginal tradition of whole body mindful walking in nature, quiet, still awareness and inner deep listening. And Miriam Rose Ungenma Bauman who is a beautiful elder from the Northern Territory. She sees Dadiri as the Australian, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders' gift to Australians, to learn how to be whole body mindful in nature. I'll send you a link to her work tomorrow. And then the overview effect, of course. And if you're anything like me, I've been really quite distressed by just some of the latest billionaire engagements with the moon and with space. But the overview effect is about zooming out and seeing, well, why do we need to be mindful? Well, we have this incredible planet. And mindful people are higher in pro-social behaviours. Talked about those earlier today. And this leads to mindfulness towards our planet. And this quote is from a researcher, a Brazilian researcher. He may be Spanish, pardon me. And his work is looking at the eco-psychology of mindfulness. And he says that when we are mindful, this leads to mindfulness towards the planet, meaning altruistic, equitable, frugal behaviours that preserve and maintain the planet's natural resources. I can't think of anything more important than that if you're considering becoming more mindful and having a life that has a more mindful way of being. So what are you willing to try tomorrow? Sun will rise tomorrow. I would really recommend that you try and greet it at least once or twice a week, if not more often. But here are some ideas for you. I'm going to put them all up. Whoops, went too far. So what are you willing to try? If you haven't done this already, turn off all your notifications and physically distance yourself from your phone or screen several times a day. Curate your social media for mindfulness. So all of those names I've told you, they put beautiful content up on social media. That's the kind of content that will help you to be more mindful. Begin your formal practice daily, 21 days in a row, and let me know how you go. Plan time, space, place, get the essential tools out. Do Dadiri, birdwatch, stargaze, reconnect, all of these things. Take a daily gratitude walk in nature and turn towards the sun in everything you do. That's that heliotropic effect. And we're here to help. I really am here to help. Georgia O'Keeffe is a big mentor for me, beautiful artist. Take time to look, says Georgia. She certainly did that every day of her life. If you have any questions, I'll check the chat bar. I can see it's almost 8 o'clock, so if you need to sign off, I absolutely respect that. Feedback is very welcome. This is how you reach out to me. Let me just see here if we've got anything up here. I am available and I would love to help you further if I can be of some help. If a recording for what we did tonight is helpful, let me know. I would love to do that for you. And let's see if we've got some questions. Okay, got some good ones here. So we live in such a distracted world. How can we possibly be mindful? Okay, that is a great question. Is it possible? This question is asking, is it even possible to be mindful? I would say that if we're not, we just might go insane. I think that mindfulness won't take away the distractions. It won't take away the constant interruptions and fragmentation that we all feel, but it will actually make us way less interested in them. I can guarantee that. technology and distractions will continue to relentlessly speed up our lives, but a mindful way of being will change your inner response to that. That would be my very strong view, and I have been practicing mindfulness myself for 9 years now, and it's certainly my experience. Beautiful comment there. Beautiful sunshine was beautiful today, but didn't get much work done. Each day of lockdown, I've done less than the day before. And I would say to that, if each day of lockdown you've been able to be more mindfully aware of what you need, I think that's a great thing. I really do. Let's just see, there's another one here. What are your thoughts on mindful apps? Okay, that's a great question. There are a lot, and I did formal practice first, and then I used an app for a couple of years. Actually, I got very sick of it in the end, but I don't think I would have stuck with an app if I hadn't done formal practice that I could go back to. And I think that with an app, you have to remember that you get what you pay for. If you are doing a free app, Insight Timer, for example, you might find something good there, but chopping and changing and doing a different mindfulness practice every day is not actually the right way to go, because you're trying to build these neural pathways. So actually doing something that's well structured and repetitive can help enormously. So I'd say, yes, try apps, but if you do, find one mindfulness person that you love and stick with them. All right, I'm going to finish there, I think. Thank you for those lovely comments. It's been beautiful to be with you tonight, and I want to thank you so much for coming along, and I want to wish you a beautiful week ahead. The next Heliotropia webinar will be in a month, and I will let you know what that's about. I don't know myself yet. If you have any suggestions for me, of course, you can email me. I do love any suggestions from people who are coming along and engaging with the work. I'll just check that last one. That's a beautiful comment. Thank you very much. And I agree very much with that. Good night, everybody. And thank you very, very much. I want to wish you, just continued health and well-being during this incredibly challenging time that we are all finding ourselves in at the moment. Okay, good night.